If you're watching this video, then you're probably like myself and absolutely love ferns, but struggle with them indoors. I don't have the best conditions because I live in Saskatchewan, and although we do get a lot of sunshine, it's fairly dry here. Ferns, for the most part, they are known for loving high humidity as well as high moisture in the soil. So I just can't provide the best conditions indoors. So ones that I've had in the past, like the crocodile fern, Kimberly, asparagus fern, as well as the bird's nest fern, they tend to get pretty crispy and dry just because, like I said, I don't have that humidity. So one extremely hardy fern that I found that does really well in my environment is the kangaroo paw fern. It's an absolutely gorgeous fern, has some pretty cool features. So I want to talk about how I care for it in my environment and how to propagate this beautiful plant. So let's check it out. Don't feel bad if you've struggled with ferns in the past, just because they can be pretty tricky. Depending on the variety that you have, most do well in like full shade and high moisture conditions, but there are a few that can tolerate higher light and sometimes even full sun. So just kind of knowing exactly the type of care that each fern prefers, I guess, is a little bit tricky until you can dial it in and figure out what it actually wants. I'm going to start off with watering this plant just because it's absolutely bone dry. Right now I just have it in this Wally Grow planter, so it's got an insert here and it does have these little holes or perforations on the outside of the pot. I like this pot because it allows the roots to breathe. Now what makes this plant so hardy is its watering routine, and that's why I'm going to start off with watering here first. I typically underwater my plants, and that's probably the main reason why all my ferns in the past have gotten super crispy, is not only from humidity but just from underwatering. This one is much more tolerant of dry soil compared to other varieties. Now I know it's dry because the pot is extremely light, and when I place this bamboo skewer in the pot, I'm going to find an area where I'm not destroying any leaves. I'm just going to push it all the way to the bottom. And when I pull out the skewer, there is virtually no soil sticking to it, maybe just a little bit at the bottom. Whenever you have soil sticking to the skewer or to the wood, you can reference it with the pot itself. So if you have soil sticking from here down, or if it feels wet, then that tells you that the soil is wet or damp from here down. But this one, it's completely dry, and you can see it still looks really green, nice and healthy, maybe like a little couple areas of crispiness, but even when it gets really dry, it still looks really good. For pretty much all of my houseplants, I use the VeryPlants aerate mix, and that's what's in this pot of kangaroo fern here as well. There is a discount code down in the description if you want to try this out. I put a little bit in a cup here just so you can see the consistency of it. It's a nice airy mixture. You can see all those air gaps in there, so that's perfect for a healthy root system. You want to make sure that there's airflow. If it's a very dense mixture and it stays wet for too long, typically you don't have that issue with ferns, but if it stays wet for too long, then those roots can't breathe and ultimately you end up with some root rot issues. But so far this plant is loving this mixture. I just use filtered tap water, so it doesn't have to be distilled or anything special. This plant in its natural habitat is an epiphyte, which means it grows on trees and it obtains moisture and nutrients from the ambient air, from rain. So typically this is not I wouldn't consider this a very heavy feeder. So I fertilize about maybe once a month. When you have a fern that grows naturally in soil, in those moist and kind of damp environments, it's usually a very nutrient, organically rich soil. So yeah, this one grows on trees. It grows up the trunk of a tree. It gets, like I said, moisture from environments and rain, all that kind of stuff. So this is what I'm using for today. I just added a little bit of the liquid fertilizer. This is the Super Thrive Foliage Pro. I got this off Amazon. Just add it in a container of water, and I'm just going to soak this until it comes out the pot. So I'm just going around the plant and just thoroughly saturating it until it comes out the drain holes. It doesn't have, oh, it does have some in the bottom. I'm just going to rotate it around here as well. And this is how I water this plant, is I just soak the soil and then I'll put it back in the little cash pot thing there. So it's coming out the bottom, and this is all I do to water the plant. and I'll probably water it again maybe in like 2 weeks time. Now when we place the bamboo skewer back in the pot, so the soil goes to about maybe like right here, so I don't have it right at the lip of the pot or the top of the pot, so put that all the way down, something like that. Let it sit there for a minute, and then when I pull it out, there should be, there you go, you can see there's a very definitive moisture line, and you can see all the soil sticking to the bamboo skewer or the wood stick here. Before I talk about the light, there's just a couple things on the plant that I want to show that I think are super, super cool. I did notice a little crispy leaf on the interior of the plant. You can just kind of tug on it and discard of any sort of yellowing or brown foliage. But just look at these beautiful leaves. There's so much new growth on this. Just very vibrant green. And the reason why it's called a kangaroo paw fern is because apparently it looks like the imprint of a kangaroo paw. Now, one of the cool features about this plant are the rhizomes, these furry little sticks, I guess you could say. Super, super cool. So on the back side of this one right here, you can see there's some little white bumps. Those are the little area roots that will latch onto a tree or any sort of surface. And up here, you can see this little, looks like a little tail. It's got a little curl. This is one of the new fronds or one of the new leaves kind of popping out of the rhizome there. And what I like about this right here is you can see just how it kind of creeps along a surface like a pot, just like this. So such a cool plant. I love the fuzziness of the rhizome. You can see just some little hairs on it. I think it's super, super cool. So not only do you get the beautiful foliage, but you get some little fuzzy rhizomes there, which look pretty cool. These ones are all just kind of busting out of the pot, and here's another one, or a few at the back. Now I'll talk about light. I do have a digital light meter, which I'll turn on here just to show what type of light it is getting, but this is where I have the pot just hanging on the wall here. I did have this grow light, this bulb, turned on when I first put it here, but the foliage, it just wasn't looking good. It was getting a little bit scorched on that side. So I actually turned it off and I just kind of left it. So right now it's only getting kind of like side light. It's nothing direct from this light right here. This is the Soltech Highland track system, and it's actually directed at my plants on the shelf. All this growth on like the peripheries of the plant is all new growth, and I've only had this plant for about 4 months. So I'm just going to change it to foot candles, and I'm just going to change the range here to that. So I'm going to use my little light sensor, and I'm just going to face it in the direction of the leaves, and it's only getting right here, probably at its brightest. So if I go up here, it goes down to about 130 foot candles, but as I come down to the area where it's getting probably the most amount of light, so right there, it's about 320 foot candles. So low light is between 50 and 250 foot candles. Medium light is between, I would say, 250 to kind of the 500 to 700 range. So for the most part, this plant is in low light. So it's getting quite low light back here. It's only about 70 foot candles. Up in this area right here, 200, and back to this area, are kind of in the low end of medium light. So this one is definitely getting low light in this location, and it looks super healthy. All the leaves are still green and vibrant. I'm getting tons of new rhizomes as well. So this one, in my experience, or in my conditions, definitely thrives in low light. Now, I know this one, some of the things that I've read is this can actually tolerate higher light than most other ferns, but it's doing well in these low light conditions. And again, if we go back to how this plant grows in its natural habitat, up the trunks of trees, so it's probably not going to receive much light at all, just because obviously the tree is going to have a canopy. Not a lot of light is going to be shining down through the canopy to this plant, so that pretty well explains its growing conditions. So I would say you know, at best, kind of that medium, otherwise low light. And if you don't have a light meter, I highly recommend getting one. You can also get cheap app light meters as well. Basically for free, and they can pretty much do the same thing. It just gives you a general idea of the amount of light your plant gets. I used to say this a lot in some of my older videos, just do a little bit of research on the specific plant that you have and the conditions that it grows in naturally. Now, if you put this fern in, say like a south or west facing window, it's probably going to like absolutely scorch the leaves just because they're fairly thin and they can't tolerate you know, high light for a long time like a succulent or a cactus would. Before I show how to propagate this plant, I've never propagated it before, but I'm going to test it out. I just want to show the humidity right now. So my house is actually, you know, not too bad. 53% downstairs here, 21 degrees Celsius. Most times it's sitting around the low 40s. So overall, the humidity level downstairs here is pretty decent compared to what we normally have. Now for propagation, I'm just going to take this out of the pot. Now, like I said, I've never done this before, but I know that you can take propagations from the rhizomes, and you just want to make sure that you have a section or at least one frond on like one of these leaves on the rhizome itself. So I'm just going to find an area where it has maybe a couple. So right here, there's a couple, there's 2 fronds on there, and then just along the stem you can see there's another leaf or frond right there. So I'm going to take these sterilized pruning shears, so they don't look the cleanest, but I did use some rubbing alcohol. Maybe get in a little bit closer. Right here where that little kind of hump is, I'm going to cut right there. Take this frond off. You can see it's got, or this rhizome off, it's got 1 leaf or 1 frond right there, and it's got 2 on this stem. Now, conveniently enough, I have a container of aeroid soil. It's a nice airy mixture. I pre-soaked it with water there, and so it is extremely moist. Now, I'm going to actually do a little bit of an experiment just because this section will be, actually, you know what, I might leave it out just like that. I'm going to bury that. I'll leave this section of the stem out of the pot. I was going to see if I can maybe grow a section that doesn't have a frond. You know what? I'm going to do that. I'm just going to cut this in half again. I'm going to find an area where it looks like it might have aerial roots. I'm just going to pop it in just along the side like that. Might actually just cover it up just a little bit just so some of that moisture can stay along the stem. And same with this one. I'm just going to kind of maybe dig it down just slightly and just lay it right on top of the soil like that. I might add a little bit more on top and then just soak it. That way the rhizome itself will be in contact with the moist or damp soil. See if there's another one right here. I'm going to take this. As you can see, there's 2 fronds right there. I'm going to take 1. I don't want to cut any leaves off, so in between these 2 fronds right there. So I'm just going to take 1 cutting just like that, so I get another section like this. Oh no, did I cut a leaf off? Shoot. I'm just going to place that down like that. I'm going to dig this one a little bit deeper, and then I'll cover the rest with like this section right here that wants to keep popping out. I'm just going to place it like that, and then I'm going to put a little bit of soil just on top. And I'm just going to sprinkle in a little bit of soil, just this aeroid mix right on top. And then I'm going to take it back over to the bathroom, and I'll completely saturate this again. I really hope this works because I want to share some updates down the road with you guys, and hopefully I'll have another pot of kangaroo paw fern over time. These aren't probably the most vigorous growers, but I'm hoping that I can get at least a small little pot, which I'll place probably just right in this area like that. The last thing I want to talk about is pests, and I really haven't had any issues with this plant, but these are pretty prone to scale from what I've read, as well as your other pests like thrips and spider mites. So just be on the lookout for little kind of round, hard-shelled bugs on the undersides of the leaves, on the top, stem, all that kind of stuff. So scale is an issue with ferns, so keep an eye out for that one. But otherwise, I think that's all I'm going to be talking about in this video. If you want a fern and have struggled with them in the past, definitely try the kangaroo paw fern. Otherwise, I appreciate all the support. If you have any comments or questions, please leave it down in the comment section. Thanks for watching my videos. Take care, everyone. Bye.